All right, good morning, second grade students. Today for science, we are going to be talking about observing traits. So today we are going to be looking at chapters 3 and 4 in life cycles of animals. So first off, we're going to be focusing on chapter 3, which is on traits of parents, offspring, and siblings. One thing is for sure. You can tell the students in your classroom apart. You all have similar features. You all have eyes, noses, and ears. But you and your classmates are not exactly the same. Features differ from one classmate to another. This is true for other living things too. All apple trees have trunks, branches, and leaves at some point in their life cycles. But all apple trees are not exactly the same. Any two apple trees can have many differences. They will likely have different numbers of branches. One might be taller than the other. Their trunks are probably not the same thickness. Individuals have traits. An individual is one living thing, a single organism. The features used to describe an individual are called its physical traits. Living things of the same type, such as chickens, share similar traits and characteristics. But every individual has different traits that make it one of a kind. How can you describe the traits of the chickens in the picture? Every chicken in the photograph has feathers and a comb on its head. Each one has one beak and two featherless legs. And yet, no two chickens have the same feather pattern. These chickens differ. Their traits of feather color and pattern are not the same. Animal offspring inherit traits from their parents. When plants and animals reproduce, the young are known as offspring. Offspring develop traits that are very similar to their parents as they grow. Look at the hippo parent and its offspring in the picture. The two hippos in the picture look very much alike. This is because the young hippo received many traits from its two parents. When an organism receives traits from its parents, we say that the organism inherits the traits. Animal offspring inherit traits from their parents. Offspring resemble their parents, but they are not identical to their parents. Plants inherit traits from their parents. In the mid-1800s, a scientist named Gregor Mendel investigated how traits are inherited. He studied traits in pea plants. The traits included seed color, seed shape, flower color, and plant height. He noticed the traits are inherited in patterns from one generation of plants to the next. For example, Mendel bred pea plants that only produced offspring with white flowers, generation after generation. He did the same with plants that only produced purple flowers. But when he bred white flowers with purple flowers, all of the new plants had purple flowers. However, when those offspring reproduced, a few of their offspring had white flowers. Mendel's experiments revealed patterns in how traits are passed on. Other plants show patterns of inheritance similar to what Mendel found in peas. Offspring resemble their parents but are not identical to them. For example, these pictures show flowering plants called 4 o'clocks. They were given their name because they bloom around 4 o'clock. The flowers of different 4 o'clock plants may have different shades and colors. If a plant with pink flowers reproduces with another plant with white flowers, the offspring can be red, white, or pink. Sometimes an offspring looks much different from its parents. The offspring flowers can even be striped or multicolored. Traits are inherited from parents in different patterns. Siblings inherit similar traits. Individuals inherit physical traits from their parents. A young parakeet might inherit its green feathers from its mother or inherit its orange beak from its father. But what if the same parents have more than one offspring? Individuals that come from the same parents are called siblings. A sibling can be male or female, a brother or sister. Sometimes two siblings inherit very similar traits and look very much alike. Some siblings inherit different traits and do not look similar at all. Do you know of any families in which all the children look exactly alike? The litter of puppies in this picture appear very similar, but if you look closely, you will find differences between them. Each sibling inherited slightly different combinations of traits from the same parents. Siblings are rarely identical. Most of the time, siblings just look similar, but sometimes siblings can share identical inherited traits. Sometimes a mother has two or more babies in the same birth. In this case, the offspring are called multiples. Twins and triplets are multiples. Some animals are very likely to give birth to multiples, such as mice. Mice and pigs often give birth to multiples. Identical siblings inherit identical traits from their parents. Their traits are identical when comparing one sibling to the other. Identical twins are rare among animals. Humans and armadillos are two types of animals that sometimes give birth to identical offspring. Siblings born at the same time can also inherit different traits. Sometimes twins or triplets can look so different that you cannot tell that they are related. Traits vary within families and within species. These ducklings have the same parents, but they do not look the same. One has yellow and white feathers. The other ducklings have darker feathers, yet the ducklings are in the same family. Traits vary within families. When traits vary, it means they show differences. Two parents and four offspring might have many traits in common, but members of the family also have differences between them. The ducklings look different because they have inherited different traits from their parents. There are many different types of ducks that share similar traits, but wood ducks are different from domestic crested ducks. These ducks have different physical traits because they are different species. A species is a group of individuals that look very similar and that can reproduce together. The differences between two species are greater than variations of traits within a family. All right, and then we're going to head on to Chapter 4, which is on traits vary within populations and species. Pete is a young emperor penguin. He is very similar to his sister, Polly. Pete and Polly inherited traits from their parents. The parents, Pete and Polly, are very much alike, but each of them is different in small ways. Traits vary among family members. The penguin family lives on the Ross ice shelf in Antarctica. Many other emperor penguin families live there too. All the penguin families that live there make up a population of emperor penguins. All members of this population of emperor penguins look pretty much alike. Yet, as with families, members of this population vary in their traits. Traits vary within any population of living things. The penguins in Pete's population live with other populations in the same area. They live with populations of plankton, fish, squid, seals, algae, and orca. All the populations in this place interact with each other. To interact means to affect each other. All the living and non-living things in an area make up an ecosystem. The penguin population is just one small part of the Ross ice shelf ecosystem. Traits vary within populations. Katydids live in a meadow ecosystem. The katydid is a leaf-eating insect. Like all living things, any one katydid resembles its parents and siblings. It also resembles other katydids in the population it belongs to. A katydid might have a green body that looks like a leaf, but each katydid is different from all other katydids in its population. The trait of color can vary sharply within the katydid population. Some are pink. A pink katydid is not able to hide on a leaf as well as a green katydid can. The green katydid is less likely to be eaten, and the pink one is more likely to be eaten in a meadow with lots of green leaves. This means the green katydid may live long enough to reproduce. The offspring of the green katydid are more likely to be green, so they will be good hiders too. But perhaps the pink katydid is more hidden when resting on a pink flower. You can see that some traits can give an individual in a population a greater chance to survive than individuals with different traits. The ones who survive pass their traits on to their offspring. Traits vary within populations and across species. Here is another example of variation of traits in a population. The flamingo is a pink bird that lives in shallow water ecosystems. Flamingos have long, skinny legs and webbed feet. These traits help flamingos wade through water in search of their favorite food, shrimp. With webbed feet, they can walk on top of the soft mud without sinking and getting stuck. Most adult flamingos in a population have about the same size feet, but some have smaller feet and others have larger feet. Foot size, like the colors of katydids, is a trait that varies in a population. A variation of a trait can help an individual in the population. For example, flamingos with larger webbed feet can stir up more mud. They may have a better chance of finding more shrimp, and that means they may have a better chance to survive and reproduce. But perhaps flamingos with small feet can fly away faster when they have to. This is another example of how some traits give some individuals an advantage in life. More trait variation in populations and across species. The saguaro is the largest cactus in the United States. It grows in hot, dry desert climates. Look at the picture of several saguaros. How do they vary? Saguaros have a way to survive seasons with little rain. They collect water through their roots in the soil when it rains. Then they store the water inside their green trunks. Saguaro's roots are shallow in the ground, only 4 to 6 inches deep. This lets them easily get water from the topsoil when it rains. The roots also reach far around the saguaro. The roots stretch out as far as the saguaro is tall. Height is a trait that varies in saguaros. Saguaros grow very slowly. Over many years, they can grow up to 60 feet tall. Some saguaros can grow taller than others, even if they are the same age. Tall saguaros will have longer roots than shorter saguaros. Saguaros with long roots can collect more water when it rains than saguaros with shorter roots. Saguaros that collect more water have a better chance of surviving in the desert. Traits vary within species. All the penguins in the world's many emperor penguin populations are part of the same species. A species is a group of living things that can reproduce together to make offspring that can also reproduce together. Human beings are all members of the same species. You know that traits vary within families and within populations. Traits also vary among individuals of the same species. For example, the picture shows 3 frogs of the same species. Frogs of the same species all look similar and can reproduce together. Whenever members of the species live, individuals with some traits have a better chance to survive and reproduce than other members of the species. Alright, and we are going to stop there for today's lesson.